Now that the cake, our vanilla cake, is in the oven, we are going to make a easy, fresh strawberry filling. I have a pet peeve, and that is I see a lot of professional bakers use strawberry jam as a filling for the cake. And strawberry filling takes 4 ingredients. It is so super simple to make. There is no excuse for not making it fresh. It takes less than 20 minutes to put together. Put it in the fridge, let it gel up. It is well worth the extra little bit of effort. We have a pound of strawberries, and this is just the 1 pound container, diced relatively small. A cup and a half of sugar, 2 tablespoons of cornstarch, and 2 tablespoons of water, which we'll use to dissolve the cornstarch. That is all it takes. Putting it together is very simple. The most frustrating part is cooking it on the stove, waiting for it to boil and waiting for it to boil. And it can take a while. I recommend that you do it on medium heat, even though you might be tempted to use high heat so it boils faster. You don't want to risk scorching it, and you do want to stir it constantly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do my first piece of prep here, which is mix my sugar in with my strawberries. And first I'm going to mix them with my spatula and just kind of get them all coated. And it'll look really sandy. This sugar is going to help pull the juice out of the strawberries, so it will not look like this for long. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my potato masher. This is a very old school, this is like the cheapest potato masher in the world. I think it came free with, it came free with some cookware that Andy and I got about 17 years ago. And we've had it all this time. I like the metal. I don't like the plastic ones. Things tend to get stuck all up in them. They get really icky and nasty. This works perfect. And I just mash these strawberries down a little bit. Not a lot right now. We're going to do more mashing once they're in the pan and they've heated up a little bit. But we want them to be mashed down just a little. It helps to pull out some of that juice. Now they actually do have a little bit of juice in them. So we're going to leave this in here. We're going to grab this. And the last thing that we're going to do is we're going to dissolve equal parts cornstarch and water. This recipe makes enough to fill an 8-inch cake. However, you may need more. I did the wedding cake for my good friends Matt and Gladys right about this time last year. And they wanted a white cake with fresh strawberry filling and Swiss meringue buttercream, which is exactly what I'm doing in this little series. Happy anniversary, Matt and Gladys. I made probably 4 quarts of cooked strawberries. Easy. I had tons of strawberries. So the only thing to know is that when you're cooking them, if they're not thickening up after they boil, cornstarch doesn't thicken until it's at a boil, you may need to add a little more. Take it easy, do a little bit at a time, and you always want to just mix your cornstarch and dissolve it in equal parts of water. You may have to play with that a little bit. That's just one of the things that happens when you are multiplying a recipe. So we're prepped and we're ready to go. So I'm going to take this all over to the stove and I'll meet you over there. Okay, here we are over at the stove. I just have a heavy aluminum pan with a heavy bottom, and I like the one that has quite a bit of room because I am going to be stirring this. As you can see from just the sugar and the little bit of mashing I've done, there's quite a bit of juice in these now. They've sat for about 5 minutes. They don't need to set at all. I was pulling the cake out of the oven, actually. So we want to get all of that out of there, and we want to turn the oven to medium the stove to medium. We are done with the oven for today. And once we have those in there, we want to go ahead and just add in our little cornstarch mixture that we made. And I use this little baby spatula because I want to make sure to get all the cornstarch out of there. We need it all. So I want to get as much of it as I can. And then we stir that together. It's kind of a pale pink right now, but the great thing about this is the more close it gets to getting done, the darker it gets. And you are going to die while you're doing it because it smells incredible. It really does. It will smell up the entire house and it will be great. So I'm gonna give these one final mash. This is the last time I'm gonna mash these up. I do mine kind of chunky, simply because I like for people to be able to bite into the strawberry. I don't want something that's just like strawberry jelly that doesn't really have any strawberries in it. So I spend quite a bit of time mashing it up right now, just so that I can get these a little bit smaller. I probably cut these a little large for this, but that's okay. We will make it work. And now, after I just put that sugar water on the top of my stove, it's gonna be a pain in the neck to clean up later. I am just gonna sit here and I'm going to constantly stir this until it comes to a boil, and I will be back when we're getting a little bit closer. Okay, so we are back now. It's been probably 7 to 9 minutes. This is almost at a boil. It is darkened up some. The thing that I never do, I never add food coloring to my strawberry filling. It darkens some in the pan as it's boiling, and then it will also darken as it's gelling in the fridge. So you really don't need to add artificial color to it. And it also is just nice, especially if you're using it with a cake that you've made from scratch. It's nice to be able to not have any artificial ingredients. So this right now is really starting to thicken up. The spoon or the spatula is starting to drag a little bit more through. I stop every few minutes just to see if I'm at a boil, but I don't stop for long because even stopping for just a couple of minutes will start the sugar burning to the bottom of the pan, and you can feel it with your spatula if it does that. So I stop it just for a second. I want to see where we're at, and it is boiling. So I'm going to go ahead and stir some more. And now that it's reached a boil is when it will really start to thicken up. If you can get it to almost the consistency of a pudding, that's great. I just let mine boil for a couple of minutes. It looks, it might look relatively thin, but honestly, once it's been in the fridge, it will thicken right up, and you will see that later. But this is done. It's boiling. It's done. It's not watery. It's got just enough, for lack of a better word, body to it that I know that when I put it in the fridge, after it cools down a bit, it's gonna thicken nicely. So what I do is I take it and I pour it into the container. I want a container that's gonna seal really well in the fridge. So I'm just pouring it in here. And I'm gonna leave this sit on the counter, loosely covered, for about an hour. I want it to come more down to room temperature before I put it in the fridge. Once it's at room temp, I'm gonna put a tight lid on it and pop it in the fridge. And we wanna keep it in there until it's cold. And we've got plenty of time for that. So there we go. We'll pull it out later when we're ready to fill.